And there we go. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us for this, the final Learn with Google for 2025. This is the last one for the year. Hopefully there'll be something continuing on next year. We haven't planned that far ahead yet, but fingers crossed. This one we're calling the 2025 Year in Review. We're going to look back on the year that was and pull out some gems. Little joke. We'll kick it over to Steve just to welcome our Kiwi friends.
Nice. Kia ora folks, te hei mori ora ina maunga whakahi ina Waituku Kiri ki te tūpuna tēnā koe, tēnā koutou katoa. Thanks for joining us from over this side of the ditch. Nice little picture of my homeland there on the screen.
It's beautiful. And over on this side, I'd just like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of our land and the continuing connection they have to land, water and skies, and to recognise Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders as communities, their strength and resilience in the face of colonisation from whichever land and country you happen to be on right now. For me, it's Ngunnawal country, but wherever it is for you, thank you. My name is Chris Betcher. I am a teacher. I work for myself at the moment in a little company called Crux Learning, and my friend Steve Smith from Google is here. Hi, Steve.
Good folks. Hello, hello.
And we have some special guests today. We invited people, if you remember back to last month, we invited people who were wanting to share some ideas about something they got from the last 12 months. So we've invited Olga Ibrahim, Martin Hughes, and Dominic Hearn to jump in today. So guys, I'll get you to introduce yourself just as we get into each of your sections. So please take a moment to just let people know who you are and what you do. And of course, you know, these three are the ones that put their hand up and said they'd love to jump in and present something, but this is an open call for anyone. And we hope that as we go through today, you know, if you think back to some of the things we've talked about during the year, if there's something that's triggered for you that you'd like to just say, hey, you know what, you talked about that thing and I took it to my classroom and tried it and it was awesome. We'd love to hear it. We'd love to hear those stories. This is the agenda for today. Olga's going to teach us about creating interactive study tools with Gemini. Martin will talk about some custom learning experiences with AI tools. Dom will talk about implementing Notebook LM with initial teacher education students. Dominic and I go back many years. And Dom currently works at the University of Sydney in the initial teacher education school. So it's an interesting perspective we don't usually get on these calls because we're normally very K-12 focused. So I'm keen to hear that. We'll look at the changelog, what's new from Google. There's a ton of stuff. I got a hot tip for you. And any questions we'll carry on with. So that's the plan. I always like to just mention we do record these. They do end up on YouTube. If you head over to the channel, we do love a bit of a thumbs up, a like and subscribe, as they say. It does help the channel numbers, and the channel numbers have been growing really healthily over the last 6 months. So thanks for all your contributions to that. Just two little promo things I want to talk about. There is a series of events that have happened all around Australia and New Zealand called Google Summits, run by our friends over at Deploy Learning. There is one left for the year over in Melbourne. So if you are watching or listening or replaying this from the Melbourne area, there are still places available, I believe. It is free for educators. It's funded by Google. So if you want to head over to that, it's a full day of fun and games, playing with all the cool googly stuff at Albert Park College in Melbourne.
And Chris, that's a different one than the rest of them. So those of you with eagle eyes, well, you can't see because it doesn't say, but it's actually a Friday. So this is a school day. So this one's a bit different than the others that are non-school days. So we thought we'd try one on a school day. So that Melbourne one will be a great one to go to, and is yes on a Friday.
Yeah, and I remember when I was on the team that was running summits, we'd always vacillate back and forth, which is better, school holidays or school days, and there was always pros and cons. So it'll be interesting to see how this one goes. And just the other thing I just want to mention too, during this year we launched the Google Educator Group of Sydney at ggSydney.com and the Google Educator Group of Canberra at ggcanberra.com. And of course there are many others. Steve, there's one in New Zealand that's active, and I know Donna's quite active in that one. And so, you know, what I'd suggest to you is if you like being kept informed by all this googly stuff, jump into your local GEG. And Donna, if you can tell me what the address is, I tried to find it. I don't know where you guys house it all. But if you can tell me, I'll amend the slide, drop it in the chat. But yeah, join your local GEG. It's they're free. They're just a bunch of educators who like sharing ideas. It's a cool idea. Olga, I'm going to hand over to you, and you can tell us whatever you want to tell us.
Oh, thank you. So quick. So yes, I'm Olga Ibrahim, leader of digital innovation and strategy at Kambala School. Essentially, my role is I am a bit of a bridge between IT and teaching staff, and helping teaching staff use technology for learning, essentially, in the classroom. And this year has pretty much been all about Google, thanks to Gemini and that big launch in the middle of the year. I'm sure we all know about it. And so my role has really just been in upskilling, creating literacy frameworks, and yeah, just making sure students and staff are using Gemini and providing support as needed. So today I'm just going to model something that I have presented to both staff and students. So this is something that you can absolutely just repeat to staff to then students about how to use Google tools for study. So there are
do
three.
you need to share your screen, Olga?
Oh, yes. We're on this slide that has my name on it at the moment. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes, you are. Yeah.
Amazing. Excellent. Yeah. So I'll go through three things. Gemini, using GEMS, so making a custom study agent. Gemini for study planning, and for interactive study. So I will now share my screen with you. Here we go. Okie doke. All right, we've got my screen happening. Okay, let me try that again. I apologize. As I said, this year has been about Google, but before this year hasn't been about Google. So Google Meet is not is something I'm still kind of working out. So if I share my window, is there an infinity situation happening at the moment? I believe there is. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay, cool. Excellent. I'll just share one tab at a time. Let's just do one tab at a time. All right, here we go. Apologies about that. All right, excellent.
No, we've lost the screen again. Here we go. Here we go. There you go. You're good.
Yeah. Okay. I have shared this as a QR code on the slides, but essentially I'll just put this in on the big screen. Here we go. So I use the Google for Education prompt framework parts. So this is not my source. This is from Google. But essentially, just really important, breaking down a prompt, being as specific as humanly possible when using Gemini. So what I have done is I have used Gemini to create a custom gem for study. So I'll just switch over to my first Gemini tab, which is, I do apologize for this. This must be very annoying. Here we go. Okay. So I have directed staff and students to create their own custom gem by going to Explore Gems and clicking on New Gem in Gemini. And once they do that, they see a screen that looks like this. And what I've been working on with staff is getting them to use parts to create a really specific prompt to train their gem. So at the moment, my chemistry students, we're studying module 5, which is on something called equilibrium. So what we've done together is we've actually created a gem where we've typed out parts of the syllabus that are specific to what students are studying there. And we've given this gem instructions on how to actually work with the student to support their learning. So rather than actually giving them the answers to anything they kind of enter, actually guiding them through the learning process. We've also kind of been really specific about the fact that we are in New South Wales and the exact syllabus that we have followed here and how to present quizzes and what questions to ask back. So once this gem was created, what students can then do is actually engage with it and ask it to create a study plan for them or create a quiz that they can interact with. So I'll show you how I have done that. And all of this is on that, that document on a QR code, which I will share again with you in a moment. So I will just go to the first, here we go. All right. So what I then did was I went into this gem and I asked it to create an interactive study quiz. And what happens is this gem actually automatically goes into Canvas mode where it can create an interactive study quiz for you. And if it doesn't do that, you can just click on Tools and click on Canvas. So again, we use parts to generate our prompt for our study quiz. And what it's done here, it's then asked me, okay, cool, what topics from what this gem is made of, and what topics do you want us to focus on? Do you want a mix of multiple choice questions, short answer? And it asked me about the difficulty level as well. And so modeling this to students and staff has been really helpful, particularly in the lead up to assessment blocks. They see this and go, wow, awesome. There's more like study resources that I can use. All the teachers have gone, great. I can use this as a quiz at the end of a lesson, for example, even just working through it as a class. And going through this quiz then gives students feedback on how they've performed. On like the final question, what it does is it gives them like a little summary of how they performed, where they can improve, and if they want any more questions as well. So I've popped the prompt for this quiz and how I kind of broke it down in that document for you. Geez, 5 minutes goes really quickly. I apologize. This is the last thing I'm showing you. This last one is my favorite, and I find that students use this all the time. So here we're looking at creating an interactive study tracker. So what I've done here, I've just pre-made this is, yep, I've got a quiz coming up in a week. Help me revise the content, help me actually work through the content over the next 7 days. And so what it's done here, again, this is an interactive quiz, but still using that same custom gem. What it's done is essentially help students break down, what they could be studying over the next 7 days or whatever it is. And often students struggle to, I guess, start planning, writing a study schedule for themselves. So this has been, or students, the feedback I've received, students have really found this helpful in their studies. Hopefully that wasn't too much for you. Oh.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. I might need assistance getting out of this view.
I think I can just take over again.
Please do. Thank you so much.
Thanks for that. Before we go, because I know you do have a meeting to run off to at some point, and before Martin comes on, I just want to ask you a simple question. It looks like you're doing a whole bunch of things this year that you weren't doing last year. I'm curious to know what the impact of that has been.
I think it's too soon to actually really comment on the impact, let's say, on student learning. But I've gathered street data from both staff and students, and it's been really positive. There has been feedback across the community going, oh, I wish I could do this, or I wish I could do this. But in terms of improving like actual student outcomes, I don't have an answer for you yet. Stay tuned.
Sure. No, that'll come in time. But in terms of your workflow, it's obviously changed a lot of your workflow.
Oh, absolutely. And our staff have just frothed over it. We do a lot of Project Zero Harvard training with our staff. And what they've done is they've actually created their own custom gems to really use those strategies they learned at Harvard in their classroom. And the comments I've received, like it's saved them so much time, and reporting as well. We create custom gems for reporting with just really specific Kambala, like terminology and things we really want to focus on as a school. And there's been really positive feedback around that, just in terms of how quickly they've been able to get those tasks done. Yeah, it's been really cool.
Nice. Thank you. And thanks for sharing. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. And say hi to Evan for me if you see him.
Will do.
Now for something completely different. Martin Hughes. Over to you, sir.
Hi, guys. That was amazing, Olga. Thank you. So I'm Martin. I'm a professional disturber, a Google trainer, a change manager, and I work with 15 or 20 schools at a time, and I love my work. And a large part of my work has been for a long time around feedback that is fast, multimodal, and actioned. Because in many classes that I'm in or I see, feedback is often mostly verbal, and the child who attracts the most feedback is the one least able to retain it and least motivated to act on it. So it's not whether feedback is given, it's whether it is acted upon. And of course, the other type of feedback is the post-mortem feedback, the summative one that nobody cares about. They just want the whole thing behind them. So the answer to all of this, well, a large part of the answer is using rubrics, of course. Is this where I get to say next slide, please?
You should have a little button on your screen, but I can move it.
It might have gone again.
You go.
Oh, thank you very much. So this guy, Seth Godin, very, very wise. He said it's like new technology can come along and it can make the old work easier, but we're just replicating the past, which is, I see there's a fork in the road currently. The new work must be better. And so the title of this little mini sharing is about working smarter or working harder. Now, a lot of the conversation with teachers is immediately about saving time, and that troubles me because the work needs to be better in the first instance, and then the time saving with regard to teaching as a byproduct. Obviously, we can crush admin and save time saving is a priority there, but when it comes to creating resources for kids and learning experiences, I think the better product needs to come first. So I'm just going to go through a wee example. I don't have control, but yeah. So the main thing is changing the relationship that the child has to the task. So this is partly through better scaffolding and differentiating, which I'll show you in a minute, because these two kids on the left, compliant and non-compliant, they're equally disinterested. The one at the top is just cruising, and the one at the bottom is unable to access the curriculum. So the whole idea is to change their relationship with the task, partly due to the scaffold and differentiating of the task, and partly the use of rubrics. I can't remember if there's another slide or not, Chris. Maybe there isn't. No, I'll share my screen now. No, I can't do that. Maybe I'm not quite important enough. I did have the button a wee while ago, but it seemed. Oh, and we're back in. Are we? You're not allowed to share your screen.
Oh, hang on a second. I can fix that. I can fix that.
You can fix anything, Chris. I've learned that over the years. Thank you. Present now. So I was up at 5 this morning for a flight and I've driven halfway up New Zealand to the school I'm currently working at. And I drove past an amazing sight this morning, and it's not this, but it was a goat on top of a boat having a snack, and it was too busy to stop and take a photo. But I thought for this evening, I would create a whole learning experience with a rubric in less than 10 minutes because we need to break the link between the better outcomes that we all want and the extra workload that we don't want. And this is a very stubborn link that I find a lot of teachers have. So I made a really simple Google Doc. You'll see there's a wee Gemini stamp down here. I thought a goat and a motorbike. And kids are often very reluctant to write without some scaffolding. So I just put in some scaffolding down below. I got them to look at the rubric first, which I'll show you in a minute, about the two areas they're going to focus on. So we're focused on learning, not compliance. And then we're focused on creativity down here. Some prompting questions so that they can start to develop the bits and pieces of a story, and then they stitch it all together down here and it forms a little story. So I made that, and then I went to my Google Classroom. Now, if we were to talk about the number of tools inside Gemini, inside Google Classroom, we'd be here for a week or two. It is just colossal what is in there, but the only tool I'm using here is Create Rubric. And I might just type in 6 there and 3 performance levels. And I would upload my document, which I've just made, which is here. I could write in more, but I probably won't. And it will now pull out the criteria from my document because I've been quite specific about what I want them to do in the document. The instructions are baked in. That's what good scaffolding looks like. And then it will generate the rubric. This is taking if I wasn't talking, this would be taking much shorter, but I hope you can see how elegant this workflow is. And we've ended up with a rubric here. I'm now going to export it into Google Sheets.
I only discovered the other day, Martin, that it exports into Sheets in the correct format to import into the rubric thing. I didn't realize it did that. That's awesome.
It's genius. It is such genius. And then I'll go back to here to my classroom. And I'm going to create an assignment, give it a title, grab my document, which is here. Make sure each kid gets a copy. Never, ever, ever put instructions in here. It's the biggest mistake I see people make. Go down here to the rubric, import from Sheets. And there it is. Now, people may forget to do this here. You got to use scoring. Kids respond really, really well to numbers. So if I do 30 on there and 25 on here and 10 for there. So when they've got numbers, they really, really respond to this. And of course, these numbers appear on the side in Google Classroom, so it can take 5 to 10 seconds to give formative feedback for each piece of work. Am I over 5 minutes, Chris? I suspect I am.
You are, but keep going.
Okay. So it's quite, so you can go down, and the things that you want to weight in terms of cognitive difficulty can vary. And so with rubrics, I think it's really important to have an aspect that is obviously to do with following the instructions, an aspect that's to do with compliance, which is surface features, an aspect that's to do with creativity, because we want color and flair, and lastly, an aspect around a learning habit. So if, for example, the culture of my classroom is they can't be bothered to act on feedback, then guess what? I'm going to give 40 or 50% of the marks for acting on feedback. This boosts the kids at the bottom and extends the kids at the top. There's so much cleverness. Oh, God, sorry about that. That wasn't good. There's so much cleverness that we can use with just this one tool in Google Classroom.
Nice.
I'm a bit of a fan of it. So
Nice.
I better stop. I'm taking up too much time here, but thanks for your time.
You're a cruel man, cruel but fair.
Leave them wanting more.
Good for you. Thanks, mate. That's great. I know that is definitely something you talk a lot about, is the whole rubrics and real tasks and all that. So yeah, thanks for sharing again.
No worries at all.
Awesome. Let's carry on over to you, Mr. Dominic Hearn, and now for something completely different.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Dominic Hearn. I'm an education academic at the University of Sydney. I work in the School of Education with undergraduate and postgraduate teachers. The one thing that blew my mind this year was using Notebook LM and just discovering how powerful I could make it and use it within both my tertiary space, but then also backward chaining it into my secondary space. Can we do the next slide, please, Chris? Thank you. I first learned about this from Edutopia, and the Edutopia link is live there if you want to just watch it. It's about a 3-minute vid. They talk about a very much earlier iteration of Notebook LM now. What I really love about Notebook is that it's one of those AI devices that you can ring fence. So it will only use the resources that you want it to use, to which extent he says going there. I actually set up one with, do that one. For one of the units that I already taught in Studies of Religion in Year 11 and Year 12. And this was the first unit for Year 12. As you can see on the left here, I've got a range of resources that I uploaded. I'll talk about what resources in a second, but then I went ahead and got it to create the podcast. What took about 5 or 6 minutes of it going away, reading those resources, and then crunching it to be a podcast turned out to be a 23-minute podcast with 2 presenters, one male, one female. My only downside to the podcast, I would have to say, is that in listening to it, it felt like the female presenter was actually playing the straight man to the male presenter and feeding the male presenter all the lines so that the male presenter looked better than the female presenter. But that's my perception thing.
I have noticed, Dom, that they do actually swap roles. If you make multiple podcasts, they often change places.
Right. Okay. That's
a good observation.
Yeah. The other thing I liked about it also was that I could create a mind map. It's very 2D, which I don't like. Having used Inspiration a lot, I find the mind map very flat. What blew me away about the podcast was its faithfulness to the major notes that I had, which was my own teaching notes in that unit, which ran to about 80 pages of hyperlinks and all sorts of things. But I could actually hear my own voice coming through in the podcast, in the presenters. Very much even the way I would present and I would write was coming through. So I could actually hear my own voice in a big way. This really, really supports a flipped learning model. I then ran this with my third year undergrads this year and got them, I gave them very minimal instruction on it, but got them to do their own podcasts. And I had a class of students sitting there at about 5:45 in the afternoon, just going, this is the game change. They were astonished by how they could use this and the possible ways they could use it. It really supports a flipped learning model very nicely. It is something I would use as an introduction to a unit. So before I was going to teach a unit, I'd probably say to my students, particularly year 12s, look, your homework this afternoon is a podcast. Listen to it on the bus on the way home or on the train on the way home. It's all I want you to do. Come in tomorrow with 3 questions from it. And that's a way of starting for it. Next slide, please. I put in a couple of bits of research that have popped up, one from 2009 from McGar. And his research is actually looking at 2009 and then doing a backward chain of about the last 10 years of what had been said in the area. He identifies 3 broad types of use for podcasting: substitutional, so instead of a lecture, you listen to a podcast. Where I'd use it would be supplementary, but then for my students, getting them to start with my notes, adding in whatever other resources they wanted to create an audio learning recording for them to help them revise at the end. The mind map, very, very beautiful when you're doing end course revision because it spreads the whole course out really visually. The other one was Anderson and Dow in 2021, which was a review of podcasts as a learning medium in higher education. Their claim is it supports more flexible, reflective, and engaging learning environments. There are still practical and pedagogical challenges, one of those being in using podcast as a learning medium as the lack of interactions. I know Notebook LM does allow for some interactions in the podcast, which is really, really cool, but I think that's something you've got to really bring your students along with. For those of you in New South Wales, I've listed where I can see that you could then argue that using Notebook LM in your classroom would meet any of the standards that I've listed there, which gives you quite a lot of scope for working on. I'll stop there.
Nice. Thank you. I'm looking at this last slide and thinking you truly are an academic.
I've gone over to the dark side. It's truly sad. But
thanks for sharing. That's great. And I think, I've read a lot of stuff too about like the value of podcasting as a medium. Yeah, there's a lot of evidence on that. But thanks for sharing.
What blew me away was just how enthusiastic my students got about seeing how they could use it and sort of like, okay, yep, this has gone well out of my hands now.
Well, I have something in the changelog that's going to excite you then. And welcome to the changelog. This is where we just talk about what's new and upcoming. And I normally just go back for the last 30 days. There is a website called Workspace Updates. I just go back through that and pull stuff out. Although I did a little experiment yesterday where I asked Gemini to go and look at it for me and agentically pull out things, and it actually did a reasonable job. Although I did go back and do it using HI instead of AI. But that's where you find all the stuff. If you want to know what's happening with Google, workspaceupdates.googleblog.com. Okay, here's some of the things I think are really cool. The biggest announcement is one that was made yesterday, where Google released Gemini 3. If you go online and just search for Gemini 3, you'll find people raving about this and calling this like total game changer and all sorts of words like that. I'm just going to play you a little bit of this video.
Gemini has been multimodal since the beginning. Our Gemini 1 models could see, hear, understand vast amounts of information, and natively generate across modalities. Gemini 2 took the next step with advanced reasoning, enabling AI agents to think, code, and take action. We're taking all of this to the next level with Gemini 3. Gemini 3 is the strongest model in the world for multimodality and reasoning. It's our most intelligent model that helps you bring any idea to life. Starting today, we're rolling out Gemini 3 in our products so you can experience it for yourself. In Google Search, Gemini 3 enables new kinds of generative user interfaces. It codes interactive simulations like this one, custom built for your search. In the Gemini app, you can use the vast range of Gemini 3 capabilities for all kinds of tasks. You could supercharge how you learn, create, plan, take action, analyze complex videos, and more. You could start building with Gemini 3 Pro, available in the API today. We're even introducing a new platform, Google Anti-Gravity. It's our vision of software development at the frontier of model intelligence. It lets you use Gemini 3's agentic coding capabilities to accelerate how you build. The rollout of our Gemini 3 series will continue in coming weeks. We'll be introducing models with new features across different modalities and more model sizes. This is just the beginning of our Gemini 3 series. It's another critical step on the road towards making AI more intelligent and personal for you. Learn more about how you can try.
All right, so that is just a little intro into Gemini 3, and I don't know about you, I've been playing with it the last 24 hours or so, and it's pretty phenomenal. Some of the things you can do with it. But yeah, so it's now powering a lot of the Gemini experience. So here's some of the other things that are coming. So VO 3.1 has been released. That's the engine that creates video clips inside Google Vids. So if you go in, and I've just linked this like this. So yeah, if you go in there, you'll see you've now got a thing called adding ingredients. So if you look at this little clip here, you can see this person is adding two different images as ingredients for the clip. And then when it generates the clip, it'll use those things in the actual clip. So for VO to be able to create clips that are more exactly what you want, you give it the ingredients and it uses that to create the clip. So that's kind of an interesting development. John was just talking about his audio overviews. I know you call them podcasts. So I tend to call them audio overviews because I don't have an RSS feed, but I won't get into the weeds on that. But yeah, you can now do in Google Drive when you have a PDF, you've now got a button in Google Drive when you're looking at a PDF to say, make me a audio overview of this PDF. That's now built in there as well. You can also do that, I believe, in Google Docs as well directly. Deep Research now integrates directly with your Workspace account. So if you were using Gemini Deep Research before, where you can, stick it on a particular task and have it go and do a whole bunch of research for you, up until now, it's always gone out to the web to find that research information. You can now use your own personal information as part of that research as well. So it's almost like bringing some of the Notebook LM style, what word did you use, Dom? Ring fence, right? Ring fence resources. You can now do that directly in Gemini Deep Research. So you're getting some crossover between Notebook LM and Gemini itself. Same in Google Docs. You can now improve your writing by grounding Gemini in your Google Docs sources. So if you're writing a Google Doc and you want to ask Gemini to sort of help with some of that writing, you can now point it to your own resources in your own drive, and it will start to link into that as well. So again, that's that source grounding, that source of truth. Gemini and Google Sheets now analyzes data across multiple tables. It previously has only been able to do one, but now if you ask Gemini to do something in your sheets, it can look across multiple tables in the sheet. And here's a really cool one. In the Gemini app now, you can actually generate presentations in the Gemini app. Now, it's pretty good. I was actually surprised how good this is. If you go into Gemini and start your search with put it in Canvas mode, and then say create a presentation, and then ask for what you want. It's pretty amazing. Now, I can't talk too much about this because I'm on NDA, a non-disclosure thing, and I can't talk to you about it until, unfortunately, tomorrow when I'm allowed to talk about it, but too late for today. There are some new things coming that will blow your mind in terms of what Notebook LM can do. And I can't say more than that, but just keep your eye to the ground, east the ground eye to the whatever for the next 48 hours or so, because there's some new stuff coming that will be amazing. Some other things that are coming: Meet and Chat. You can take meeting notes inside Meet. There's a little button inside Meet. You can say take notes for me. You've now got the option to take longer, more detailed notes. There is a wider range of emoji now. I haven't seen this one turn up yet, so maybe it has for you. It hasn't for me, but you've got the little emoji button at the bottom where you can do that sort of thing. Apparently you're getting a whole bunch more emojis now, so you can throw up, I don't know, 2 emojis, or I don't know what'll be in there, but there'll be a whole bunch more emojis now. There's a new waiting room experience in Google Meet. So before people are coming into the Meet, you can now have they go into like a meeting room before you allow them in. So if you're still doing like parent meetings and stuff over Meet, it's a much better experience now because you can bring people in a much nicer way. And the other neat thing in Google Meet that is rolling out right now is, if you go to the chat over here and you type something into the chat, like hello, right? That chat that we have here in Meet is just in Meet. And when we finish the call, that chat goes away. That's no longer the case. You'll now be able to carry that chat in the Meet call over into Google Chat itself. So the chat will remain persistent after the call. So especially for people who are working on in teams and stuff to do work, and they're having meetings and they're also having a chat, that now becomes a unified experience. I think that's a neat idea. The last page of this, help me schedule. I'll just show you a little live demo of this one. If I just go over to Gmail here, let me share this tab instead. So I'll just go over to my Gmail reel and I hit it compose, and I need to have a meeting with someone. But, it's always hard if you don't know when they're free and when you're free. So you've now got this little button down the bottom here, which can help you schedule. So it'll look across my calendar to find some appropriate times when I'm free, and it's just going to suggest some times there like that. Now, if I put the recipient in there and the recipient, and if I had visibility on the recipient's calendar, it would look across both of our calendars to figure out when we're both free. So that's nice. But the other thing you can do is from, I think, the drop down here, you can share your booking page. And so we've talked about this in the past before, where you have the booking page for your calendar where people can book in for an appointment with you. You can now drop a link to the booking page directly into your email, and then they can just click a link and have a meeting with you, like someone's going to do with me in about half an hour from yesterday. So it definitely works great. Okay, back to here. You can now block time off in calendar with a task. You've always been able to put tasks in your calendar, but you can now drop a task into your calendar and actually link it to actual tasks in your task list. So you can block off time and assign that time to a certain task. Setting sharing expirations on files and folders in shared drives. You've always been able to set an expiration on a file in Google Drive, but not in shared drives. So they're now bringing that file expiration to right across the whole experience. Thank you, Dom. Yes, thought you'd be excited. That just means that if you want to share a file with someone, you can actually say, I only want them to have access for the next, 24 hours or 7 days or next month or whatever, and then it will automatically turn that sharing off. And just finally, help me create in Google Forms, where AI will help you, Gemini will help you actually create your form. It's now available in 7 more languages. And I think it's Spanish, French, Portuguese, Italian, I don't know. It's in the list there. But you'll get these slides at the end, so they'll have links to all of these if you want to follow up any of them in particular. All right. Just before we wrap up, I tried to finish every one of these with a hot tip. Gemini made me some chilies there. And my hot tip this time is just something I learned during the week that I didn't know, and I thought I knew this stuff, but in Google Vids, if you're putting a video clip on Google Vids, and actually here's one I created earlier, right? If you're creating a video clip in Google Vids, and like, let's say you've got this video clip here and you've got 2 like pieces of text that come up on the video clip, what normally happens, let me just extend this out. What normally happens, put that there and there, and turn that off, right? People have said to me in workshops, like, oh, I don't want this stuff to be here in the beginning. I want it to sort of play for a few seconds and then I want my titles to appear. And I didn't know about this, so I was telling people, oh, just split your clip halfway in the middle and then just put the titles on the second half and not the first half, which would work. But then I found out there's this show timing button, and you can now see all the things that are on this clip. And you can say, I don't want this rounded rectangle business. I want that to start about there, and I want a buy crisp etch a bit. I want that to start a bit later. And so now when I play that, it'll play just with the video, and then those things will appear one by one. So you actually have full control over whatever's happening inside the clip itself. So that was good when I discovered that. And then I discovered, oh, well, if you go to each of these things, so like this introductory one here, and you look at your animations, you click that little animation button and it controls the animation, how they come on and off. So by default, they're the same, but you can separate that out there and have them different. So let's say I want this to slide in, and then for the exit, I want it to rise up. And so what you'll find now is that when I play that, that will slide in from the side like that. And then when it gets to the end of the playing in just a second, it's going to rise up like that. Or, yeah, blow up like that. So, yeah, you got full control over all that stuff. And then what I discovered was that if you just click on a clip, and you go to the animation button up here, you can actually set the animation for the whole scene. So you don't have to actually do it per object like I was doing it. You can just say, I think for this whole scene, I'd just like to have a, let's do a playful one. And it's going to just apply some playful animations to that scene. So now when it plays, it's going to come over here. I'm sorry, let's go there. And it's going to go there, and then those animations are going to come. It's just going to automatically apply some animations for me. So there's a whole bunch of controls there in Vids that I didn't know you had, and you can actually do some really sophisticated things. So there you go. There's my hot tip. Let me go back to here. All right. No, I didn't need to go there. Go. Yeah. Right. And that wraps us up. Thanks, everyone. I will mention, I've been making some videos on behalf of Google, and I did actually do a whole series on Vids. So there's like a 9-part video series. Each video is like 6 or 7 minutes long. I will share that with you in the follow-up email as well, in case you're interested in that, if you want to really dive into Vids. We record all of these. They all go onto our YouTube channel. Please do subscribe if you head over there. That would be super. Also, if you want a PD certificate for attending today, you can head over there to bit.ly/GFE certificate, hit the link and fill in the form, and you will have one emailed to you automatically. And then finally, like, this is our last one for the year of these, so if you've never given us feedback on these before, please do. It's just bit.ly/GG_F_B, not confusing at all. Learn with Google Feedback. But yeah, if you get a moment, we'd really appreciate it. And I know the folk at Google will be looking at whether they run these again next year and in what format and everything else. So your feedback does matter, and I'm sure they'll take it all on board. And with that, 1 minute over, but we started 2 minutes late, so I'll call that a win. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining. Thanks for being part of this during the year. And we'll hopefully see you next year. I'll stop the recording, but we'll hang around if anyone wants to chat.
Thanks so much, Chris. Really appreciate the way you pull these together.